Hi, I'm Sarah Burns, and I want to thank you for taking a little bit of time and listening to my video on energy healing. And I have been putting a series together about some of the Reiki myths, and I should say more so, let's call them Reiki misunderstandings, just to kind of tone down the lingo here. So one of the things I want to talk about today that has probably going to give me a lot of flack, but I don't really care because I can handle the flack, is this technique that is standardized in Reiki called the Reiki 12 hand positions. And I have a lot to say about that, but I'm going to talk about the thing that bothers me the most, and that is when you see these photos where they've got their hands on a person's head. In fact, I had a web developer want to use those photos, and I said absolutely not. I don't want to use those stock photos. I have a huge issue with people doing energy healing directly on the head, and I'm going to share my reasons for that now. The key thing is Reiki is putting energy into the body. And most people have energy blockages either in the neck region or in the chest region. And so if you're putting energy, I don't care what position you are on the head, if you start there and you are putting energy in, stop and think for a minute what you're doing. You are creating intracranial pressure in the head because that energy is not freely flowing through the blockages in the neck and the chest area. Now, I've heard Reiki is perfectly safe, but I don't feel that's always true. And in fact, Mikao Usui died of an aneurysm while giving Reiki attunements. Now, Reiki attunements are different than energy healing, but the same concepts apply. He had too much energy in the top of his head, and he obviously had some blockages going in the lower body energetically to where that wasn't flowing as well as it should. So it isn't necessary, if you really understand energy healing, it's not necessary for us to work directly on the head. It's not. If you understand how the meridians flow through the body, then you understand that that's not necessary, because those meridians go through the head. You could be at the feet, for example, and that energy is going to rise up into the head naturally as these blocks below are getting disintegrated. One of the first techniques I teach my students has to do with opening the channels of the heart. And what I tell them is, as you're doing this, you are going to be clear energetically, because you are releasing all this excess energy from our heads. Think about all the stimuli you have going on around you throughout the day. You have TV, you have internet, which has a high frequency that you may not realize you're listening to always. You may be reading all the time, thinking about things. All of that creates all this energy. So you have to ask yourself, do you really need more energy up there? Probably not. You probably need less. You probably need it to be flowing better through the body. So with that, I want to say that I do have concerns about starting on the head, working on someone. And I'm going to raise another question for you if you're one of the people that are outraged in hearing what I have to say about this and think Reiki's perfectly safe. If it's perfectly safe, then how is it effective? If you're putting energy into something and there's blockages, there are consequences to it. You can't say it's just perfectly safe and it works. It doesn't work that way. If you're moving blockages out, then you have to take responsibility again for what you're doing. And you can't just adhere to this blindness and saying it's perfectly safe, because I do think that there have been incidences of aneurysms and strokes. Now, I don't have proof of that 100% but what I am saying is I do know of quite a few people who have done Reiki on themselves who end up having aneurysms and strokes. So you have to take into account what we're doing with the energy. And if there's a safer way to do it and it's just as effective, wouldn't that be the right way to do it? Wouldn't that be the more responsible way of doing Reiki? I know again that this is not going to make a lot of Reiki diehards out there happy, but I think it's time we stop hiding and saying that Reiki is perfectly safe when I've actually seen consequences of it. Let me give you an example. I had a client one time who called me and she was so in dire straits because she had gone to a Reiki practitioner with a headache, and the practitioner worked on her head. That was the only thing she worked on. And when she left that office for days, the headache was intensified, she was ungrounded, and she could hardly relax. She was in a state of panic and pain. And so when I saw her, when she came in, I worked on the technique that I felt would be safest for her. And also keep in mind that in my work, I do shamanism on top of it. And what I came to realize as I worked on her is that she actually had what's called a spirit intrusion in one of her energy fields out here. And that intrusion out here was having an impact on her head that was causing the headache. So to make this more technical, I had to release the spirit intrusion as I was moving the energy through the body so that she could function again. But if you don't take these things into account and you're doing healing, then yes, you can cause harm. And I have seen that more than once, more than a few times. So take into account that you have to consider the blockages below here before, if ever, you need to work up here. I'm Sara Burns, and I hope this gives you some more information on how to being a great energy healer. Take care and have a wonderful day.